beautiful day in this Google hood. A beautiful day for a teacher. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? It's a googly day in this Google wood. A googly day for us Googlers. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? I have always wanted to have a teacher just like you. I've always wanted to teach in a Google hood with you. So let's make the most of this Google full day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Don't you need a trainer?
You learn it with ease, be like a breeze. Could I be your trainer?
I have to clap for
Great job,
Mr.
people.
Mr. Rogers. Good job.
Yep. Thank you all. We are live, Google on air. So thank you all for coming in today. We've got some great information. And first of all, I have to thank my awesome moderators to sing along and help get the show going. So thank you very much. We have today Bree Hodges and Amy Mayer. So let me go ahead and get them on the screen. If I can. All right, well, we'll come back to that momentarily. All right, thank you. So today we are going to be talking about going mobile with Google Classroom on iOS. You'll have access to these slides through this link right here. There's my contact information. All right, so today, the key points we're going to be focusing on. Why Google Classroom? Being mindful of all the differences, because iOS versus Android versus desktop versus any other platform, they're all going to be different. So we want to make sure you get the best experience. We're going to talk about best practices and then finally finish up with some tips and tricks. So let's begin with why Google Classroom. So I'm fairly new in my role. I am the ed tech at Hill Country Middle School in Austin, Texas, working for the Eanes Independent School District. And this is my second year in this role. We are a one-to-one iPad district. And so when I started last year, we were piloting a couple of different platforms for managing workflow, for student participation, student turning in assignments. And what we decided was that there needed to be some sort of common ground. And what was happening was between all the schools, between all the grades and all the teachers, everybody was using something different. And what we found was that Google Classroom, since we are a Google district, was an easy workflow to kind of standardize, get everybody on the same common baseline. So both students and teachers knew what to expect. There was continuity between the years, between the classes, between all the grades and schools. So this year we put a focus on making sure that our teachers were participating and standardizing this platform. What brought this about too was last year, I literally had a teacher come running out of her class, stop me in the hallway because she was so excited. Her students gave her a standing ovation when she introduced Classroom. And to me, that was one of the greatest moments. And it was also one of the key moments that our administration decided to come on board and fully support this movement. So let's start looking at some of the differences. So when you're working on an iPad versus a desktop or a laptop, the experience is going to be slightly different. And I'm going to share my screen. So one of the main features that we really like about Classroom on an iPad is the simplicity. And we recommend using the app, not just the browser, because it kind of simplifies, it makes it almost foolproof to a certain degree so that students are able to complete their assignments, submit their assignments, and get their information rather quickly than having to navigate through numerous steps. So let's look at what that feels like in Classroom. So here I am on my device in my Google EDU on Air class. And you can see it's real easy to navigate. I have my stream and I have my classmates. I also have my About section. But when I want to work, I simply click on an assignment. It comes up. I'm able to do all of the steps right inside of here. When I click on an assignment, it automatically opens up. And we're going to come back to this momentarily to discuss what are some of the best practices when working with assignments. So, but I just wanted to show you how easy the platform and how simple it is right off the bat for your students. Now, one of the issues you might run into.
Hey, Rich, are you still there? We can't hear you.
Yes, can you hear me?
There you are. I got you now.
Okay, thank you. So one of the issues that you might run into is depending on what type of platform you're running. Like us, we're running one-to-one, so we don't have to worry about students sharing devices. But a really nice feature is if you are in a shared environment, you're able to manage their Google Documents by using what's called the password. So if I go and open up my Docs or Drive, for instance, and I go to my student account, you can see I have a password here. And in order to get into this account, I have to type a password. If I type the incorrect password in too many times, it will actually remove this account. If I want to switch to a different account, it allows me to do so because this one doesn't have a password. But if I go right back to that student account, it requires me to add a password to get into my account. So the way we do that is you click on the pancakes or hot dogs. Remember, Google is food, so you choose your flavor. Down at the bottom, we have settings, and here's where I get to add my password lock. So the nice thing is, once you set the password lock for one user, it carries all the way across all of those apps. So if I set it for Drive, it works in Sheets, Docs, and Slides. And if a person tries to log into somebody else's account and they do it too many times, which I believe it's 4, but I'm not positive about that, it will automatically delete the account. What's nice about that is, remember, it's Google, it's in the cloud, so it will not lose their information. It's just going to remove that account so that user has to sign in with their credentials again. So going back to Classroom, unfortunately, at the moment, Google has not added that feature, and hopefully they will add the password protection in there. So what would have to happen is the students would have to manage the account and actually remove themselves each time that they want to log into the device. So that's one of the benefits if they were going to go back to a browser to log in. Otherwise, they can easily do it by just adding their credentials. All right, and here's another slide giving you some of that information on how to do that. All right, so now the fun part. Let's get to some best practices. What I typically recommend is that the teachers work through the Chrome app on an iPad versus the Classroom app. There's just a little bit more functionality through Chrome as opposed to the Classroom app. In particular, one of those areas would be something like the About page. And so if you look at a grab my screen. Switch accounts. Bree, do we have any questions out there?
Not yet. Nothing's popped up just yet.
All right, thank you.
While you're working on that, Rich, we can tell you that there are people watching from all over the world. We have someone here from Egypt, someone from Jamaica. Jared is there from Vegas. We have someone from Turkey, so it's quite a cool audience. Not to make you nervous or anything, but
that's great. It's awesome that we got the love from abroad. All right, so here's what it would look like. If I click on my class, you can see the experience is going to be slightly different. If I go to my About page, notice how it looks very similar because I'm in the Chrome browser here. If I tab back over to the Classroom app, you can see you basically just get sections. It's not any flair. You don't have all of the buttons to get to your calendar. You don't get to your folders. It's just real simple. What you see is what you get. So I recommend that only because the students only need to go where you want to direct them. They don't need to get lost with too many navigation steps. All right, now, we did a training this summer, and literally on the day of the training, we were training our entire staff on Google Classroom. As Google typically does, they gave us some awesome features right in the middle of our training without any notice. And let's take a look at that. They added the new annotation feature. And you'll notice that when I open up an assignment and I click on it, I'll get two buttons up in the top right-hand corner. And hopefully this will work. I don't know why it's not opening up.
hey, Rich, while you wait on that, can I throw you a question from the Q&A?
Sure.
Does all of this work the same way on the phone, on the iOS, on the telephone versus the iPad?
That's a good question. I haven't checked any of the new features on the telephone, especially since being on the app. I know a lot of the older ones were there, but I'm not positive about the new ones.
I think they do, and this is to Brian Fish. Brian, I think they do work. A friend of mine and I did test the annotation feature, and it did work on her iPhone, so I think you're good to go there.
All right, I'm going to switch something here. Let's see if that helps us. Okay, so here we go. It opened up. So you'll notice that instead of on the old version, when you click on a document or an attachment that's included, it would automatically open up in that application. In this case now, you'll notice you get two buttons. The left one is the highlight or the annotate. The right one is kind of like a share square where it opens up in that native app. And so what'll happen is once the student sees this, if they're not familiar with what's going to happen next, we've had students go ahead and annotate thinking that's how they were editing this slide. This is actually a shared editable slide, so the students can do kind of like a bio or an about me page. So if I click the annotation tool, what it does, if I go ahead and let's say highlight something, and I'm going to change my size. It's a great feature. And what I find really surprising, it's 2016, almost 2017. In order to save this, we have to hit this weird looking shape in the top right-hand corner. I don't know what Google was thinking, but most of our students have no idea what a disk is. So when we click on that, you'll notice it converts it to a PDF. And so now it automatically included that annotated PDF in here. However, that doesn't complete the original assignment. So you have to be real mindful, and one of the best practices that we've taught our teachers, show the students the difference. Make sure that they are aware of what those two buttons do and what the final product should be in return. All right, so that's a good segue into to view only or not to view only. So you'll notice that in this assignment that I just had up, that this gray area up at the top contains the actual attachment. So let's go back. I want to show you a different assignment. So I recently used this in a training where we were doing movie themes, and I was doing the history of Godzilla. And so you'll notice that we have this attachment in here. And if I click on it, it will open up just like the other one, and I'm able to annotate it. Notice how it's stuck inside of this gray area. I can't do anything with it. If I go back, you'll see there's another one. And you'll notice the difference here, that attachment is no longer in that gray area. And I also have this X over here. So the difference when I assign these, the first one was view only. This one was make a copy for each student. And while that's great when dealing with Google type documents, you want to be real careful when you're working with others like JPEGs and PDFs, because as a student, I can accidentally click this not knowing that that was part of my work, and now I don't have that file anymore. So be real mindful about when to share as view only and when to make a copy for each student.
Hey, Rich, I have a question for you from Sophia, and she would like to know if the feature you're demonstrating works on old iPad 2s.
Good question. We just refreshed, and I don't know, but I think I might have one that I can test at the end. Keep that question in the, and I will definitely test that for you because we do have some iPad 2s still available. I think it is if it's not dependent on iOS 10. Because if the new update from Google is dependent on iOS 10, then you will not be able to do it. If it will work on an older iOS, then yes, it should still work. But we'll confirm that and get back to her. Thank you. Any other questions?
There's one other question from James, and he was asking if Google will allow teachers to have the student view.
Student view as in?
I think basically kind of like what you were showing with the student test view, how we typically create a test account.
Yeah, that's you'd have to have your administrator on campus or in your district create you kind of like a dummy account, or you can just use a colleague. So somebody maybe in your PLC or another team member, go ahead and team up with them, build a fake class, and you can test it out. But one really cool feature that this might help answer that question too is if I go back to this assignment and I click on it and I'm going to annotate, and I can add text too. So if I just wrote Godzilla and then I save it, remember I'm in my student view now. So I'm going to go back and I am going to switch to my teacher view for that same class. And you'll notice that I didn't turn in that assignment. All I did was start to edit it. If I look at the student work, you could see there's my test student. It's in there. And as the teacher, I can go ahead during their progress and comment and mark up in case I wanted to, let's say, redirect them, add some extra comments, and help them along to make sure that they're successful with the assignment. So all I did was highlight Godzilla. I hit save. You'll notice if I go back to the student view and I go to that assignment and I click on it, it's already marked up. There was no turning in. So it's kind of like comments that are on the fly that are live and instantaneous. So maybe that'll help answer that question too. So, but yes, you would need a dummy account, or you would need maybe another teacher to kind of team up with you to do that. And I would definitely recommend it because you want to see what's going to happen or what it's going to look like. All right, so tips and tricks. Let's start with classroom folders. When you're on a computer, on a desktop or a laptop, you don't get this feature. And what this is going to allow me to do as a teacher, if I want to see all of my classroom folders, again, I click the pancakes or hot dogs, scroll all the way down. And where on the desktop you normally see the archive classes, here you're going to see classroom folders. And by clicking that, it automatically takes you to Drive, and now you can see all of your classes. So if you just want quick access right to all of your classroom folders, that's one way of getting there. Also, you'll notice, in case you haven't before, when I do this, look at the top left-hand corner. I get this quick arrow to go back to navigate to Classroom quickly, as opposed to closing the app and moving back to the other app. All right, that's classroom folders. The next one. Now, this is kind of like more for overall on the iOS as opposed to just classroom, but the request desktop site is a must. So when you're working with any app with Google and you want to get some more added features, I'm having trouble finding my, here we go. Hey, it's not liking me today.
Hey, Rich, while you're looking, just a friendly reminder, we've got about 5 minutes before we're going to be finished with our session today.
Thank you. All right, so let's go back to Chrome, and you will see that top right-hand corner, these are your favorite, as Amy says, they're hot dogs turned sideways, so you could call them the dots or you could call them the hot dogs. And this request desktop site, this is going to become your new best friend if you're unaware of it. This will simulate as close as possible to a live Chrome browser. And what that allows me to do is something really cool like this. I can use forms. But not only can I use forms, I get to use my favorite icon in forms, which is the puzzle piece. I am now able to run add-ons through the Chrome browser on an iPad. Same thing. Now, the only drawback is, notice how I can only run that one. I can't add it. But if I go to something like Docs, and let's go ahead. And turn this into desktop site. And I open up a blank document. You'll notice that now I have functionality to add add-ons right from inside of the Chrome browser. So this is great because I can run things like Formule, I could run SAS writing, I can run EasyBib right inside of the Chrome browser. So please make sure you check that out. All right, so here are some benefits. Helps you install and run add-ons. Another tool in the app, in the iOS app, in Docs, you can't just simply add columns, so you're able to do it in Chrome and then let the students go back and work. One of the other issues we found with the iOS app for Sheets, the charts and graphs don't always show, but if you switch to request desktop site, everything shows and it works. All right, so thank you guys. And any other questions before we go ahead and end?
I'm just going to kind of fill you in on what's been going on in the Q&A. So a lot of questions that we've already asked you, tons of people from all over the world. Here's one more I see. If you run Google Docs through the Chrome browser on an iPad, can you access add-ons like voice comments? And I know you mentioned some add-ons you can access. Do you know about that one in particular?
I think you could, and Bree, you were talking about that recently, right?
Well, mine wasn't specifically about voice comments. It was really more using the, we were looking at the speak screen portion of iPads through accessibilities, and that does work well. But I haven't really investigated the voice comments specifically on the iPad. We use it a lot in our computer labs, and especially with our teachers giving feedback back through they utilize their MacBooks to do that. But that's a great question on it. I would assume that it would, though.
Yeah, we'll have to test that out. So the nice thing is with these comments, they're not going to close when you're done today. So we'll be able to follow up on all of them.
There was another question too earlier on about will these features work on an iPhone as well as the iPad?
Yeah, so Amy believes yes, and we'll check back on that. I haven't used one on an iPhone recently, so I can't confirm. But I don't see why they wouldn't, but we will definitely check that out because I don't think it's specified iPad only on the Google documentation.
Yeah, I think you're right, Rich. So we love two takeaways in particular. One is using the request desktop site. That's a big takeaway for a lot of people, and I know it was for me when you taught me that. And the other one is maybe some of us did not even realize that you could do that annotation. So really, really big for people.
Great. Yeah, when I found that earlier this summer, I was blown away because all I did was try to go to forms and everything popped up. I'm disappointed that they still don't have drawings on there yet. Hopefully that'll come soon. And then now with the new sites, the sites works great on an iPad. So don't forget about the new version of sites because that's only going to get bigger and better.
Shout out to Andrew Stillman, who is also watching your session today. I didn't want to tell you earlier because I don't want to make you nervous, but now you know.
No, we got to give a shout out to Andrew for all the awesome add-ons that New Visions provides us. So thank you very much.
All right. Well, good to see you guys.
And yeah, thank you all for joining us. A special thanks to my awesome moderators for joining in and singing. And enjoy the rest of the conference.